Hey parents and family, I'm here to give you our summer technology update. My name is Jamie Lusader and I'm the CTO for La Cañada Unified, and today I have a special guest joining me.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Staley and I'm the Technology Integrationist for LCHS.
Some interesting facts, both of us graduated from LCHS, so we're very passionate about the work that we do and being able to do this at our school site.
And both of us started as La Cañada High School English teachers.
Oh, that's right. Super cool. All right, so what we want to start off with today is just focusing on our mission statement. It's really important that you know that this is what really grounds our work. So we're a learning community committed to personal growth and academic excellence, and I really think we have to apply a digital overlay to this. We really have to think about the learning community does expand to the digital world, and it is bigger than just our sleepy little La Cañada. And we also have to think about personal growth both digitally and in the real world. How do we help our students learn responsibility in both of those realms? And then academic excellence. It is no longer something that we just see with our standards and what's going on in the classroom. It is expanding to a bigger world. We want our students to be critical thinkers and really creative, but ultimately we want them to be not just consumers, but the creators in our world. So today we're going to talk about a couple things. I want to introduce you to, or remind you, the history of our laptop program and where we got started 5 years ago. We're going to tell you a little bit about our current practices. I'm going to talk about some of my dreams for the future, and then Lindsay and I are going to go through some of the challenges that we want to issue for you, for our students, and our staff. It's time to throw the gauntlet down. So quick history, last 5 years. When we look back at our technical landscape, most of our technology experiences were done by teachers, and they were managing classroom business. I remember as a high school English teacher, one day I just really got thoughtful about how much I was using technology compared to my students, and I mapped out on the whiteboard what my day looked like from technology, from logging into the computer, taking attendance, completing an online assessment, checking grades, all of that work, building my lessons, and then a student experience was very limited, and I was wondering how we could change that. We had computer labs in our schools. We had a few desktops per class, and there were maybe 1 to 2 laptop carts per site, but they were older and not used very often. Some teachers were being really creative, and they were finding ways to bring technology into the classroom, including iPad centers. I actually want to go on record of saying I had an iPod case with 28 iPod touches. No, they weren't even touch, not touch, that old. And then state testing was completed on paper. So that was something else to note from 5 years ago. And then when I left the classroom, I moved over to the technology department. I had to draft a set of technology goals, and they were very prescriptive. It was a kind of formulaic outline from the state. And again, as I mentioned, I was really interested in having the technology in the hands of the kids. So my first goal was really identifying all the things that we did with technology on the business side and then compare that to what the students did. And I was really interested in the school day not ending when the bell rang. And I really wanted kids to be able to have access to things after school, whether that was teachers, curriculum, whatever it was. I just felt that we were missing something. Now it's interesting reflecting on that concept in the midst of challenge success now. It's one of those things we're going to have to evaluate. How much have we expanded beyond the school day that we want to protect? So kind of taking a moment here, I want you to all know that we're very conscious of the impact that we have with some of the decisions that we made. And I'm fully comfortable with saying we've either gone too far, we need to scale back, or we need to push harder. So this is one of those kind of reflective moments. We're looking at this early goal and we've really swung the pendulum a different direction. Are there things we need to be mindful of? So that was one of the early goals, only 2 more. The next one, I really wanted us to, again, this was state required. It was looking about copyright and making sure students understand using fair use, images, and lawful versus unlawful downloading. And we're still doing that work today. So that goal hasn't fallen off. It just looks a little different. And then the last early goal, this was again focused on the belief that if we are doing really good formative diagnostic assessments, we can see gains with our student achievement. And so that was an early goal, looking at our data and assessment systems. I really believe this is where technology is a strength. If we can get feedback in the hands of our students faster, it is more connected to their learning experience, and they're going to have a better understanding of what to improve upon. And so again, this is still a really important goal, and it was very specific back in 2014. So then something else changed in our world. The Chromebook happened. Prior to getting the Chromebook, we were really focused on iPads. That was the revolution going on in all of our schools, across the country, actually. And some school districts had gotten bonds right around this time, and they invested heavily in the iPad. And then another bomb sort of dropped called state testing online. And we had a pretty difficult experience with the iPads. It worked in our field testing, but about halfway through, we decided to buy 1 or 2 carts of Chromebooks, and suddenly the world changed. The ease of use, the kids weren't experiencing any frustration with using a plug-in keyboard or a touch screen for taking their test. It really changed things. And the price tag, we realized this was something we could invest a little bit more in. The iPads were around $600 to $700 then, and so that was really cost prohibitive to getting more technology into the hands of our students. Then I started thinking, if parents were going to support this program, if we wanted to bring more into our classrooms, it was a pretty big ask to say, please send a $600 or $700 device to school with your kids. So that was one of those catalysts. When that device launched, it really changed our world. And then just a brief history of the Chromebook specifically, that very first year when state testing happened, again, the field testing, 2 teachers got the carts for about 7 weeks, and Lindsay was one of them.
It revolutionized my classroom so quickly, and those students, who I believe are the class of 2020, so they're still in the middle of our one-to-one program, were the first students in the district that got to experience how great that immediate feedback and that interesting real-world experience in the classroom could be.
Yeah, so that was our very first year, and it was the last 7 weeks of school, and we couldn't believe it. During that summer, I pulled the cart from the elementary, and I let a 7-8 teacher, Mr. Picture, actually. He was the one who took the cart during summer, and he just couldn't believe the fun he was having and what he was able to do. So then that year, we wrote an application. 5 teachers became our beta testers, and we tested for 1 more year. So about 1.25 years of testing went in before we even thought about launching it bigger. So then our kind of second full year, we decided for our 5th and 7th graders, they went 1-to-1. Then the following year, it was 5 through 8. And then just last year, it was 5 through 10th. And then this year, it'll roll up 5 through 11. So you can see we've done a really slow rollout, and they feel fast. But kind of listing it here, we've gradually gone through this. I was chatting with a colleague last night who just became the CTO for Hemet. They're a district with about 28,000 kids. They told them they'd like to go 1-to-1 next year. So if you can imagine, we took 5 years with only a half of our school district to work to the level that we're at now. And because this is just the norm in our schools, district officials in other places that haven't made this jump yet just think you can just do it overnight. All of my colleagues got online with him, and we just said, slow down. You need to do baby steps, do a pilot. And of course he agrees. He knows that's the plan. But just so you know, this is something that people look at, and we've been pretty cautious in our approach.
And deliberate. I believe that's why we have succeeded, and that our students do not feel like we are shoving technology down their throats, that it's actually now become simply a part of their day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to go a little bit through our present and our core values. This is where Lindsay's going to tell you about the things that she's doing in the classroom with our students. And we'll close with telling you our future goals and how we want to challenge you with your technology use, and challenge our students and our teachers as well. So we started this program with 5 words. It was access, acquisition, responsibility, exploration, experimentation. And this year I've added the word equity. So to tell you a little bit about what this means, I want students to have access to opportunities that come from technical knowledge. I want them to acquire new skills. I want them to develop a sense of responsibility in both the physical and digital world. And with that foundation, I really believe that students and teachers are going to be able to go further. They're going to be able to explore and experiment. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, that's where we move from our passive consumer of knowledge position to being really active and applying our knowledge and being creative. And then lastly, we sometimes make assumptions about age and technological ability. I have this secret mission that people should not be allowed to say, I'm not that good with technology. We don't accept somebody saying, I'm really not a reader. I mean, that would be really taboo and embarrassing, but we're so open about saying I'm not good with technology. I'm on a mission to help people build some tech confidence. And so again, with the idea of equity, we want to expand that to mean not just access to devices, but having knowledge, and that's at all levels for parents, students, and staff when we talk about technology.
Especially because as a learning community, we need partnership. We need not only our students to buy in, but why I'm here is because we need our teachers to buy in as well. And if they're excited about what they're doing with or without technology, then the kids will follow.
Absolutely. So Lindsay's going to tell you a little bit about what this looks like in the classroom.
So that very first summer that we brought those Chromebooks into the classroom for 7 weeks, Jamie pulled me out of the classroom as well. And I immediately started on the high school campus where I originally began 15 years ago to help the teachers understand and explore when and why to use technology and, of course, how to use technology. And since then, they've invited me into their classrooms to help co-teach so many different lessons and ideas to further the kids' experiences. So I'd like to talk about each of these words in relation to what we are doing with the students and the teachers. We start in elementary helping the students feel better about the technology we are first giving them. We focus on the Google Apps suites. This is how we use Google Sheets in math. This is how we put together a slides presentation so that there are not more words on there than you can handle in an oral presentation. And then in 7th grade, we start to focus not just on the Google Suite, but also on all the other amazing educational apps out there that help kids get their words out into the real world, that help the students publish what they are thinking in the class, that help the students have a Socratic seminar while they're still sick in bed at home. All of these things the teachers are interested in, but I think by themselves, they get scared to do it by themselves. They don't know where to start. They don't have the research behind them the way I do, because that's my focus now. And so they ask me to come in and help them co-teach these foundational skills so that the technology can actually get out of the way. So once they introduce the topics, the students can focus on what the teachers want them to do rather than the technology itself.
And I think that's something we've made such a strong focus, that the tech is a support tool. It is not what's driving what we're doing. And initially it might have been. I was really interested in driving change, and technology was going to make it happen. But going into year 6 of this work, it really is about how does technology go take a step back and the student learning and everything go to the forefront.
Which is part of our wellness campaign as well, both from our early days, 2014, and Challenge Success now. It's how do we use technology for social media good and for our own tasks and wellness. The next thing I wanted to focus on is acquisition of skills, acquisition of knowledge. And that really comes down to the 2 powerful words of digital literacy, which is a fancy word for, or fancy phrase for, being a better Googler. When we started, I don't think Google was a verb, but now it is pervasive in our day-to-day activities. And I think teachers and parents take it for granted that our students know automatically how to do this responsibly and intelligently and by themselves, whether they're at school or at home. And so we have spent hours and hours with every single grade, especially in the upper grade, 7th through 12th grade, teaching the students how to research well, how to understand that you can't get away from bias, but knowing the difference between fake and good news and good news sites, and how to build a good bibliography for whatever research they're doing themselves.
Yeah, so coupled with digital citizenship, which is what you'll hear a lot about, it's the behavior with the technology. Digital literacy is really how do you use it? And those are, that's really what Lindsay spends the prime majority of her time doing.
And now when we talk about responsibility, that's when the digital citizenship comes into play. I think we've made a mistake by focusing so much on it in K-8 and letting it die off a little bit in 9-12, where the digital literacy piece picks up. And so I've made a conscious effort for this year to pick up the digital citizenship lessons again for high school students. We've realized that our teenagers still need those conversations about how to use social media safely, how to use it for the good of the world and their community, how to be effectively present without hurting their chances later in life of doing whatever they want to do. And one of our earliest goals of the copyright lessons still comes into play. The students still see Google as this vast world of I can take and take and take, the YouTube syndrome, and we need to teach them how to do that responsibly and ethically. And then the most exciting part of my job is the exploration and experimentation. This, I think, as Jamie said, was not part of our world when we started 5 years ago. We weren't ready for it. The teachers and the students weren't ready for it. And now we are, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
We want to show teachers that technology can be a catalyst for giving students choices in how they learn, in how quickly they learn, in how they produce their work, in how they showcase what they know. And I also have conversations without students present. That is a lot of what I do during the day. I'm not always with the students. I often get asked to have conversations with teachers about what we've traditionally taken for granted. Not everything needs to be traditionally graded like it used to. We have computer programs that do that for us. And so what technology programs and apps are out there and what we're asking the students to produce, especially with the real world, can lead us to new ways of looking at what it makes up our grades and what makes up knowledge and what makes up meaning inside the classroom. It's really exciting.
And we're also thinking about how do we not just reproduce the same low-tech product with technology. So we're looking at the posters that were done on paper, and with the digital component, are they amped up or are they just a replica? Like, are there functional improvements that happen when you add technology? And that's the part that we really spend a lot of time looking at.
Because I think now we're starting to realize that sometimes low tech is the way to go. We don't advocate that everything in the classroom has to use technology now. Sometimes no screens and a one-on-one conversation is always going to be better than having technology, but it's knowing when and how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So along with all that we're working on, there are those parts that are really scary with technology use. So another area of focus for us right now is this concern over student safety. We really want to make the point to say we're partners with you on this process, along with our teachers and principals. And we want to focus on our educational aspects and promote healthy experiences. That's one of our goals. We want to teach the students about, if you see something, say something, just that simple concept. If something's not right in the world, you need to tell somebody. Your students will know the phrase upstander, whether or not they believe it or not, but we are making sure that is something that is known. You're not a bystander anymore. You're an upstander. You're going to take action. And that doesn't mean that you get in the middle of a fight and break it up, but that means if you see something, you get help for your friend or yourself. And we've really had some conversations about the concept of cyber friendship. Have our students who are living in this digital world had explicit lessons on what it means to have friends online or to maintain online friendships.
Healthily.
Yes. And I'm sure some of you can think about some bad Facebook experiences you've had as adults. Those are real things. And considering the emotional, roller coaster that you might go through of seeing yourself left out of a party or an invite or, a friend away on vacation when you couldn't go that year. There's a lot of emotion that goes with it that we're not prepared for. So we really want to help our students with that. And then there's just even the concept of what it means to be a student today. That's something that we have to unpack, really helping them think about themselves as learners. So with this in mind, what we do is if we hear of an issue at a school site, we respond immediately. Whether it's the principal calling us or a teacher calling us or we're consulting with the principal, we really help with whatever issue comes up. And then we think, specifically if something happened in one class, we may understand that the entire grade level was affected, and we will go teach the lesson to correct or enforce or help with whatever that challenge was. So we respond quickly and thoroughly. And then one specific lesson that I just love that Mr. Paskowitz does with our elementary school kids is he has this phrase called the dark alley. And it's when students are experiencing something online and they just get that feeling in the pit of their stomach that this isn't right. And he really helps them recognize what that is. And so we tell them that if you do experiencing a dark alley of the internet or some experience, this is again that time when you go get help. We want students to think about the implications of posting online content that could cause themselves embarrassment or others embarrassment and what that means. And those are two very specific lessons we have to kind of navigate this new world. All right, so now our future. And I hope you'll hear some of our passion in what we're thinking about for the future. So as you've heard, We've had a long history with technology in our district, and the change that's slowly happened over the past few years to put more devices in the hands of our kids, or more technological experiences that are thought through. We now want to think about how do we enhance and amplify those experiences. So this year we met with teachers, we met with staff at meetings, we met with a governing board, we grabbed kids on the playground or at lunch, and we asked 3 questions. And we asked them, what's the purpose of our learning space? What actions do we want to see in them? And what behaviors do we want to promote? And for the kids, a lot of times we ask, like, when you look in this classroom, what do you like about it? Some of these questions were a little bit hard to approach as a student. But what we really got from everybody is the core value about our instruction. And that's where I wanted our next iteration of our technology planning to go. How does this support our instructional core values? And what we heard from everybody in these focus groups is we heard the words learning, collaboration, safe, comfortability, skills, sharing, problem solving, risk taking, creativity, thinking, listening, respect, kindness, independence, empathy, and confidence. What I love, ironically, is technology is not mentioned in any of those words.
And I also don't think that anybody would disagree with any of these words. Mm-hmm. Everybody at any age level, age group wants to see these words in their education program.
Mm-hmm. So we're taking these big ideas and we're going to use this as a foundation to really examine what we see happening in the classrooms and what we want the goals to be for the tech department. So here's what we're coming up with. Pause for a second. One other little element of this is we're writing our goals. We're really thinking about the things that are just intriguing us. What's really getting us excited about the work that we do. And we're really excited about the concept of tech wellness. That's our interpretation of the Challenge Success program. How can we help students develop healthy habits around technology and intentional healthy habits? That comes from a deliberate tech use, not being an addicted user or an impulsive user, but a user with choice and a user that's empowered. And that's what we want to help our students do. We also really want to amplify student choice and voice. And Lindsay mentioned this earlier, but we're really interested in students taking charge of their learning and then being able to talk about it. And that's something we want to shift the focus away from the in-grade to the learning experience. And then lastly, we've done a lot of work with design thinking. Personally, I've been to the training with some of our 7-8 history teachers, and we're bringing this concept to our district a little bit bigger next year. But it really just is about the empathy that's needed when we're trying to solve problems, to really look at how people feel about the issues to uncover what the issue actually is. So you'll hear us kind of approach things a little bit differently now, because we want to get feedback, we want to interview, we want to hear more voices before we make our decisions. And this is really coming from the design thinking model and then applying that concept. So summing up our kind of future part, and then we're going to give you our challenge. Our draft goals for the next 2 years are going to revolve around these 6 concepts most likely. We had some writing team focus groups last year where we really dug in. It was teachers and staff thinking about these concepts, and this is where we landed. We want to honor all knowledge levels, so you should feel comfortable wherever you are in your tech journey. We want to empower users of technology. We want to encourage peer collaboration at all levels. We want to create this culture of experimentation. We want to increase everyone's troubleshooting capabilities. You should not have to worry about something not working. You should have the kind of tech capacity and confidence to troubleshoot and try things. And then from our 3-question work, we really are interested in preserving and developing those soft skills, those critical elements of being a human and being successful. So this is going to be that foundational work that we'll use to kind of enhance and amplify the learning experience. And now our challenges for you.
So I think it's funny that we started with challenging parents, but I think it's to highlight how much of a partnership this truly takes. Mm-hmm. We all know that it takes a village to grow up our kids and to educate our kids, but we also want everybody to know that this conscious decision to use technology in the classroom and to do it responsibly doesn't end when the school day ends. Mm-hmm. We really need parents to understand that it has to have conversations in the home to continue our work. Mm-hmm. And so we issue these challenges to you. I'd love for you to model the behavior you want to see in your kids. If you don't want them looking at the phone during dinner, I encourage you not to have your phones anywhere near you during dinner. I encourage you to, if you take your kids' phones away or their Chromebooks away when everybody says good night, then yours should be out of the room as well. And that is very difficult in the 21st century. My phone is my alarm clock, but it's a good practice and it's good modeling behavior. And I'd also like to challenge you to remember that this generation sees technology so much different than their parents do, so much different than even you and I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are natives, and we throw that term around, but that means that not having their phone as a punishment is a little bit more severe than the parents or the educators think that it might be. So I encourage you to think and talk with your kids about how they see technology, how they're using the apps that they do, what they do with the technology, and why.
And a few more challenges for you. We really want you to have conversations about social media with your students and the impact. And really, as I mentioned earlier, reflecting on your own habits and experiences when possible. It does feel like for some students, they don't think you could understand what they're going through. And that's exactly what we told our parents, and that will be the tale until the end of time. So social media is just that new version of that story. But have the honest conversations and just engage in those healthy conversations as often as possible. And then we also, as Lindsay was talking about the cell phone, kind of just taking it away, really want you to consider that when you are struggling in that parenting moment of, something went wrong and you immediately react to get rid of the device because that's what's causing the problem. Really think about the behavior. See if you could isolate what happened. Because the device is a thing that just existed in that moment, but it wasn't the thing that caused the behavior. It just was part of it. So pull back and really think about what actually the behavior with your student was, and see if that will help you uncover the issue and maybe assign appropriate consequences. And then lastly, we would love for you to have conversations with your students about the learning rather than just the final grade. And that's a tough one, but really think about having that deep conversation of tell me, rather than just tell me how your day was, and what did you learn today? What process did you experience, or what was different from this over the last one? Ask those critical thinking questions, and you might get more than one word answers, we're hoping.
And more than one word answers that include A, B, C, D, F.
Right.
So a lot of my work stems from these challenges that I work with staff. I want them to feel comfortable using technology in their classroom, but I also want them to feel comfortable getting to that experimentation and play phase with and before their kids come into the room. So the first thing that I think Jamie already mentioned is that we want to eliminate the phrase, I'm just not a technology person, because teachers wouldn't go around bragging that they're no good with managing their students or that they have bad handwriting. It's just, you are better at some things, you are not good at some things, but we all use technology on a day-to-day basis. And in education, we've all said that we're going to continue learning. And so if we are committed to that, then we need to eliminate that phrase, I'm not a good tech person, and continue to learn and continue to grow and continue down the path that really we want our students to always be on too. I would also like our teachers to start asking how they can use technology to make everything they do in their classrooms and everything they ask their students to do relevant to the real world. We live in the 21st century, and therefore, even though we do have to teach certain standards, we can make it relevant to the real world. We have more access to more people and more places than ever before. And so there is no reason why most of the things that we ask our students to do should be to present their findings or their writing or their questions to a real world audience.
It's very easy now to mirror the workplace that is waiting for our students. Even if the jobs they may take aren't quite invented yet, we have an opportunity to give them that foundational experience through that process. And also for staff, we really want to challenge them to reflect on the technical enhancements that have happened in the past few years. And I'm really harping on the idea of thinking about the value of having a paper binder versus a Google Drive being well organized. And not that one is better than the other, but just which one are you using and why? And thinking about the skills that come along with that. So with a binder, it is about organization. and keeping things neat. That same concept could be applied to a digital binder. So again, what is the binder teaching the kid? So that's the thing I really want us to think about, is when we have these enhancements, some of the times we're still doing things the old way because that's just how we've always done it. And again, old way may be brilliant, but just why? That's what I want people to think about. And I also want balance with technology use. It's really easy to swing the pendulum as we've done, I've personally done for this district. But again, it's got to be balanced and it's got to be the right reasons. And then lastly, I really want our staff to find opportunities to ask students about their experience as a learner and get input and then offer choice. That would be my wish.
Speaking of, lastly, these are the challenges that we'd like our students to think about. We'd like students to take ownership over their learning and ask the technology department if they are interested in something, ask to be part of some of our focus groups, but also ask their teachers if they have a great idea, like, you're asking me to do this essay, this podcast, this slides oral presentation, whatever it is, can I do this instead? We'd like to teach both sides, teachers and students, to get comfortable with that process, to have those conversations about how best students can showcase their learning. Mm-hmm. One of the most important things to me personally is for students to put down their phones while they're in the halls, which is so difficult to ask them to do because I know they have 7 minutes of freedom before they have to listen to yet another one of us tell them what to do for another 50 minutes. I get it, but so many students have run into me physically in the halls because they are looking at their phones instead of where they are walking. And so I have made a conscious effort to never have my phone out whenever I am outside of my office or a classroom. And anytime a student catches my eye at LCHS, they're a wonderful group of kids. Mm-hmm. They will always smile back and always say hello, even though some of them don't know me. But I'd like them to extend that courtesy to each other. Put down your phone, watch where you're going, notice in real life who you are passing in the halls.
And I appreciate that we're kind of requesting this of our high school students, and not following the lead that's happening at a mall in China that I read about, where they're actually putting in a cell phone walking lane. I really don't want that for our high school.
Let's not tell them that exists. Right. They might want it.
All right. And our last challenge for our students, and then we're going to wrap this up. We really want you to help teachers with the tech pain points. If you are that techie student, and you see the teacher struggling, step up, be the hero, help them out. We also want our students to recognize that technology is designed to entice. It is built to be something that you want to have your hands on.
Devices and apps and social mm-hmm. media, all of it is designed to do this.
So don't let it use you. And we're going to work to teach our students how to handle this a little bit better. And then lastly, we need to eliminate the multitasking myth. It doesn't work. So we want our students to just understand there are no benefits and to experiment. Watch how fast something will get done if you're doing that alone and that's the only thing you're doing. So we're going to do some experiments with that this year as well. Our final slide for you, we just want to reiterate that we are in this together with you. There are challenges, there are great things, but we want this to be a shared journey. And we want you to know that we're here for you and whatever that you may need as we're working through this together. And also we want you to make sure you send us your questions. If you haven't seen us, this is what the tech team, the instructional side looks like. Lindsay and David are in the classrooms all the time. David is focused on K-8 and Lindsay is 7-12. And then I just run around everywhere. So we're always here for you. But please let us know whatever you might need. And we hope to see you at one of our parent nights in the near future.
Thanks, everyone.